In this video, I want to talk about my experience using the G8 Power from Motorola, not as my primary phone, but as my secondary phone. So let's just get into that. So as you can see here, I am running the latest version of the firmware for this phone here as of this video. So it did update to Android 11, came with Android 10 out of the box, and does have the latest security update here as of the 1st of August 2021. So first off, of course, let's talk about the main advantages of this phone here, hence the name Power. It does have a big 5000 milliamp hour battery. So Motorola claims this phone here should be able to last easily 3 days of battery life, of course, to moderate usage. If you're a power user, you may be experiencing less than that. But for my issue here, or my use case, I did use this as a secondary phone, so not my primary phone, but of course I have put some use to it. You can see, for instance, here, I did get 6 days, 12 hours of battery life, still 35% left, and that is with close to 4 hours of screen on time. So less than an hour a day screen on time, but still, that's pretty insane, being able to almost last a week. If you are just a moderate user or a low-end user, maybe using for browsing the web and other kind of stuff, emailing and such, you should easily be able to last those 3+ days, maybe even more, maybe even closer to a week, if you only have moderate users into this phone here. But of course, if you're more of a power user, use a lot of social media, take a lot of photos, videos, and stream a lot of content, then of course the battery will go down. But I believe you should be able to hit close to 3 days, which is kind of insane. And yeah, one of the strong suits of this phone here, definitely be able to last you several days on one charge because of that big battery. And of course, the little lower power draw for a lower end SoC. It uses the Snapdragon 665 SoC. So of course, not a high-end phone, not the fastest phone, but definitely in terms of battery life, it is quite impressive. And in terms of the screen on this phone here, kind of surprised me a little bit. You do get a little cutout hole here for the front-facing camera. And this is a very low-end phone, like price-wise as well. I ended up paying a little more than $100 for this, maybe $110 for this here on sale. Quite a good deal. It actually has gone up quite significantly in price since then. But you do get a Full HD Plus. So it does have the wider aspect ratio, but it does have 434 ppi, or pixels per inch, and it does have a 2300 x 1080 resolution. So it is a 1080 screen. So of course it does have the higher aspect ratio. I believe it's 19:9 aspect ratio of this one here. Have a little bit of a chin in the bottom section here, but actually not as big of a chin up here. And it looks fairly modern. Also looking at it from the front, it doesn't really bother me all that much, especially when this is a lower end phone. But what kind of surprised me as well is the screen quality. I don't have any dead pixels or anything on my unit here, but actually the screen looks quite nice and sharp. Not really the highest color gamut, but still looks plentiful in my opinion. Not really those poppy colors like AMOLED screen has on Samsung phones and so on. But I believe the contrast ratio is definitely quite good. Color is more than enough. It seems to be close to sRGB color space. And it should be plentiful for most people. And at this price segment here, it was amongst the best in terms of resolution and screen quality of the phones I looked at when I went up and bought this one here. So the screen on this phone here is definitely a pass. It's a nice screen, high pixel count, pretty good colors, and pretty good contrast ratio. And as well, I have a little bit of a hole punch there. A lot of those cheaper phones have the little teardrop, which I definitely do not like. So the screen is definitely a strong suit of this phone here as well. The construction of the phone actually surprised me a little bit as well. A lot of phones in this price segment here tend to have plastic framing, but this one actually, I don't know if you can actually see it, but it does actually have aluminum framing, although it is the 6000 series aluminum framing, around the phone here, but it does feel very sturdy, and it is quite a heavy phone as well. Of course, it does have the big battery, but it feels very sturdy and nice. Of course, backside is made of some kind of glossy plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap in any stretch of the imagination. So definitely in terms of build quality, it's quite a nice phone as well. In terms of cameras, of course, you don't get camera quality comparable to like a higher end phones like the Samsung S21 Ultra that is my daily driver, but actually quite nice cameras for a inexpensive phone like this. And one of the nice things this one has, as you can probably tell is written on here, it does have a macro lens, so a dedicated macro lens, which a lot of phones doesn't have. The S21 Ultra does have a macro mode where it switches to one of the telephoto cameras when you get very close to a subject, and it kind of works. But with this one here, you can get very close, and it does have, like I said, a dedicated camera for that. So quite nice camera setup. It does have the quad camera system, have some telephoto, ultra wide, macro sensor, and just the standard ultra wide or standard wide camera as well. And it does pretty well, of course, within this mid-range category. It is a nice camera, but if you compare to something like a higher end phone, of course, it will fall apart quite fast. But it did surprise me a little bit that we get a quite usable camera setup with this phone here. The fingerprint sensor have been working reliably for me, not only fast and reliable. So just touching the sensor, I will get a quick vibration and the phone will unlock, and it will do so like 99% of the time. The only time, of course, if I touch the sensor a little bit too fast, maybe I am moving my finger a little bit, or I am not really touching it accurately enough, so user error. But whenever I am touching the sensor correctly, get a little vibration and the phone just unlocks immediately. So that's been quite a nice thing. Again, mid-range phones like these have a tendency to not have the best and most accurate fingerprint sensors. So the fingerprint sensor on this phone here is just reliable and it's plenty fast. Does have maybe half a second of wait from you actually pressing the sensor, so you get the vibration till the screen turns on. But that is probably more due to the system on a chip that's in this system here. Of course, not the fastest this day and age, but the fingerprint sensor itself is fast and reliable. So the phone here, of course, has stereo speakers. It does uses the earpiece here as the left speaker, and it of course has the right speaker here, downward firing. And actually, S2 scale, which of course can do more than just measure. Speaker quality has impressed me quite a bit. Just take a listen here. Mass, bone mass, and so on. I've been wanting to get this scale for quite some time now, but I do have the Withings Smart Body Analyzer, which I've been quite happy with and I've had for several years, all the way back to the first generation. The speakers are definitely plentiful when you're just listening to YouTube videos, maybe even listening to some casual music and stuff like that, podcasting. I would say it's definitely fine enough and also loud enough. So that's kind of a surprise as well. You know, lower end phones tend to have maybe only a mono speaker or bad speakers and don't really be able to play all that loudly, but this one definitely plays quite loudly, and the audio quality coming from this one is actually quite clear. Not really the lowest frequencies, but low enough. And as you can hear my voice on this specific YouTube video there sounds clear enough. So definitely thumbs up for the speaker quality as well on this phone here. And one thing this phone also have is of course a headphone jack. I know a lot of people out there still prefer using wired headphones with their phone, and there's only those mid-range or lower end phones that today are getting headphone jack. For how long, I don't know yet, but I think in a few generations we'll see this also removed for the lower end devices as well, but it is definitely a nice thing. So call quality have been very good on this phone here. The speakerphone quality is fine, and the other end says my voice sounds just fine, so I've had no issues with phone calls on this one here, as well as the antennas are working quite well. Does of course have 4G LTE, and it does have voice over LTE as well. In terms of call quality, it has been great, and also in terms of the range of the antennas has been quite nice as well. So no complaints in that department. It does come included with an 18 watt fast charger, turbo power from Motorola here, and of course also a cable So nice to see that we actually get a charging brick in the box. Of course, lower-end phone gets this treatment these days. High-end phone does not. But even though it is an 18-watt charger, the phone only really supports 15 watts of charging or fast charging, which is not the fastest, but of course it will protect the battery a little bit. But it takes several hours to actually charge this 5000 milliampere hour battery to full. So that's just one consideration there, but I believe 15-watt charging is fast enough, and I do prefer charge my phone slower to protect that battery, because you will degrade the battery quite significantly if you are fast charging your phones. So just leave it in overnight, and of course when you wake up the phone should be fully charged. The phone does also have Bluetooth 5.0. I have tested it with a Bluetooth paired headphones, and I feel like the range on this phone here has been excellent as well. And again, for a mid-range and a low-end phone like this here, to have Bluetooth 5.0 is quite nice. And I've had no issues with Bluetooth connectivity. So the antennas in this phone here is definitely quite good in terms of both for Bluetooth and also cellular connectivity. I have no complaints at all in those aspects on this phone here. Now to the little more negative side of the phone here. First off, it only supports Wi-Fi 2.4 GHz, which is a little unfortunate of a phone coming out in 2020. Although this is a lower end phone, it's kind of understandable, but I did actually expect it having 5 GHz, and I actually thought phones nowadays just have 5 GHz. It couldn't really cost that much more to include a 5 GHz Wi-Fi card in this phone here. But that's just one of the areas where Motorola kind of cut some corners. And as well, we do not get any kind of NFC connectivity with this phone here. So you're not able to use it with contactless payment or pair it up with a pair of Bluetooth headphones that uses NFC connectivity and so on and so on. It does not have the hardware built in, kind of a downgrade as well, and one of the corners that Motorola as well has cut with this phone here. One more negative point as well with this phone here, it only has eMMC memory built in. It does have 64 gigabytes of memory, but it is, like said, of the eMMC 5.1 variant. So it doesn't really have the fastest read and or write speed, especially the write speed that you can tell here. It's below 100 megabytes per second. The read speed is actually quite okay. But again, in a modern smartphone, UFS storage is definitely the way you should go if you can. So installing applications does take significantly longer with this phone here, not only because it does have 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi, so not the fastest Wi-Fi, it takes a little bit longer to download, but also longer to actually install the files onto that eMMC built-in storage, because it's not as fast as some of the UFS storage out there. In terms of actually opening the applications and games and so on, it's not really that noticeable, I think, because you can see the read speed is actually quite good. It's almost 2.5 times faster than the write speed, but it is a little bit slower in those UFS storage devices out there, also if you compare it to other lower end smartphones. So that's a little bit of a bummer. The automatic screen adjustment on this phone here is not really the best I've seen. It's a little spotty. Sometimes it will just ramp the brightness up quite significantly, and sometimes just ramp it down quite significantly. There is not really something in between, and it's not really as smooth as on the higher end phones like Samsung S21 series and so on, and other phones. I believe it uses the camera to kind of sense the ambient lighting around the phone, and it's not really the best, but of course you can just turn it off and adjust the brightness manually. But I kind of like having that automatic brightness adjustment. So if I'm in a darker room, it will automatically just lower the brightness, and of course if I'm outside in a sunny weather, it will just ramp the brightness up, and it does quite well when you're outside. But indoors, if you have multiple different lighting, it can be a little bit iffy and a little bit too aggressive in my opinion, and turning up and down the brightness depending on your environment. So yeah, that's also kind of a small negative there. And of course, like many other lower end smartphones, doesn't have any wireless charging, which is kind of convenient, and especially if you're used to using wireless charging, just put it on your wireless charger and forget about it. But with this one, of course, you do have to use a wired charger. It does have, of course, USB Type-C, so that's always nice, but a wireless charging capability would have been nice. And also the fact that it does have a dual SIM capability, so you can have 2 SIMs in this one here, but you cannot have a micro SD card and 2 SIMs in this one here at the same time. So it's either 2 SIM or 1 SIM and a micro SD card, which is a little unfortunate as well. Some of the cheaper phones, I believe some Samsung phone does actually have the capability of using 2 micro SIMs as well as a micro SD card. So if you want to use 2 SIMs like I want to use with this phone here, you're kind of limited to only the 64 gigabytes of built-in storage, which isn't really all that much if you start to record videos and photos and have your music and maybe downloaded a few Netflix episodes or YouTube stuff on the phone here, videos and so on. It does run out of space quite fast with the 64 gigabytes of inbuilt storage. So if you want to use it with 2 micro SD cards, just make sure that 64 gigabytes is enough on the phone here. And of course, we don't have any 5G connectivity, but only very few lower end phones have 5G connectivity these days. And they tend to cost a little bit more than what this one actually costs. So I'm not really sure it is a fair thing to rant about, because you shouldn't really expect it in a lower end phone these days, at least not yet. It should be more common in the future, of course, but as of this video, it is still the vast majority of lower-end phone that comes just with the 4G connectivity. So yeah, all in all, I really like this phone. I could probably use it as a daily driver. I would probably miss the NFC connectivity and the faster Wi-Fi and storage maybe also, but I'm not really a high-end user. I don't really use social media, so I use it for emailing, some web browsing. I don't game on my phones, and that battery life, man, is just insane. Being able to last at least 3 days on a battery charge with the kind of uses I will throw at this phone here, maybe even 4 to 5 days. It's quite impressive. So yeah, definitely highly recommended. I think in terms of what you actually pay and what you get, I believe this is a stellar phone. Of course, it does have its drawbacks, and Motorola had cut some corners that I've also kind of talked about in this video, but instead of maybe 5 GHz Wi-Fi, you get a little bit better screen with a higher resolution. And instead of NFC connectivity, you get a big battery and so on and so on. There is no perfect phone out there, but in the lower end phones, this price segment, I believe this is one of the better ones out there, and one you definitely should pay attention to and maybe even consider as your next phone if you can get it at a good deal of maybe $700, $800, $900. I believe this is a stellar phone. Of course, it's not a fast phone by any stretch of the imagination. Not only the storage, but also the SoC. You shouldn't really expect flagship performance. This is a low to mid-range phone, and you should expect around that performance of other competitive phone in this price segment here. Definitely a nice phone. I like it, and I plan to keep it as my secondary phone going forward. I already made an unboxing and first look at this phone here. Of course, I can link it down in the description below if you are interested in that videos as well. But that's pretty much it for this one here. I hope to see you again in a future one. Until then, take care.